And we are live. I was nearly late to the live because I was making a little festive drink.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that was not what we got my fingers there. That was the most rubbish cheers. Let's try that again. Cheers. I think last time when we did this last year and we did cheers, there was no fingers getting in the way because we were doing it virtually. And it was daytime for me.
Yeah, you were in a different country altogether.
I know. That's it. So welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome. There's not always alcohol on this channel, but sometimes there is. My name is Katrina and I make bookish channel here, bookish content here on this channel every week. Oh my goodness, it's late at night for me at this stage of the term. I would like to welcome Linda back to the channel again. I cannot think what I'm going to say at all, apparently. Welcome back.
Hi.
Welcome back to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. As you know from the title of the video, we are going to be talking about our top 10 books of Q4 today. I am aware that it is only the 21st of December, and so we're not quite at the end of Q4, but I am also aware that there are really not very many books released at this point in the year. I do know there are a couple coming out. We are currently listening to the new Lucy Diamond, which came out on the 14th, and I do have a pre-order for the new Becky Albertalli Adam Silvera novel that comes out on the 28th. But if those become favorites, then I will include them in my favorites of Q1 next year. And it's exciting that we've got people joining us already. That's so exciting.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. It is lovely to have people here with us, even though I can't remember what I'm supposed to say. But yes, we are a little bit early, but we wanted to squeeze this in before Christmas in case you're looking for any last minute Christmas gifts, because any of these 10 books, and we are actually keeping it to 10 this time. We have no honourable mentions, no sneaky ones in there. Yeah, any of these 10 books might be last minute Christmas gift for you, and they are of course all linked in the description box below, as is my blog and my Goodreads, where I believe definitely all the books you're going to be talking about are reviewed on my blog, and I think roughly 50%, no, 3 out of 5 of the books that I'm going to be talking about are reviewed on my blog, because I haven't got around to writing reviews of the other one yet. So if you're wanting full written reviews of these ones, you can find them on my blog. We are going to be talking about 10 books, 5 each, and I can tell you that I have a mixture of fiction and non-fiction here to talk about today as well. So if you are looking for more non-fiction recommendations, then hopefully this will be helpful for you. And as we always say, as you always remind me, these are in no particular order. They are just 10 of our favorites from Q4. And now that we have done Q4, I will create a playlist of our end of quarter wrap-ups in case you have missed any of them. So if you are watching this after the fact, I will leave that linked up above right now, up that way. We're opposite on this one, up above right now. So I will create that playlist and pop that up.
We also have to say that there will be no spoilers.
Of course, this channel is always spoiler free, whether you are watching book reviews or movie reviews, or book versus movie videos. They are always spoiler free. So yeah, I can't think of anything else we need to cover before we kick off.
No.
So I will let you talk about your first favorite book of 2021 Q4. There we go.
Okay. So the first book in my favorites is this one, The Christmas Escape from Sarah Morgan. And I've probably talked about Sarah Morgan in every single roundup that we've done because she is one of my favorite authors.
She definitely featured heavily in our videos that we did this time last year, where we were talking about festive favorites. So if you missed those, I'll link those as well.
She always produces a lovely story at Christmas, and during the year as well. I always look out for her books. She's always taking us on a wonderful journey as part of her story, and this is no exception.
Nice.
And this particular story took us all off to Lapland. And as you can see from the cover of the book, we've got a lovely snowy outlook, and there are the Northern Lights, as you might well be lucky to see if you go to Lapland. So this story, it concerns friends, Christy and Alex, and that's Alix, and Alex is a girl. And so is Christy.
Yeah.
And Christy is going off to Lapland for the Christmas, and she's taking her husband and her little daughter, Holly, very appropriate name.
Very appropriate.
And she's also taking along friend Alex. But at the last minute, Christy has to stay behind for a bit. And she asks Alex to take Holly, and also sends along her husband's best friend, Zach. But what she doesn't know is that Alex and Zach have a history.
Oh.
Yes, unfortunate history. But they decide they're going to try and get along anyway. And they have a wonderful time with Holly, doing all sorts of good snowy things. And they also meet up with Christy's aunt, who actually owns the resort that they are staying at. And so when Christy and husband join them as well, they have a jolly old time, all of them together, doing wonderful snowy things that I thought sounded really quite exciting and quite nice. And the cabins themselves that they were staying in, and you can see the picture on the cover there of one of the cabins, they were quite luxurious. And although it was extremely cold all the time, it was also full of wonderful things to do, and lots and lots of sitting by the fire with hot chocolate and lots of Christmas trees and presents, and it was all very good. So it was what you might call a very uplifting story, because there was all sorts of secrets revealed about family goings on in the past, and family rifts that could be healed, and all sorts of nice things happening. So I would highly recommend this one if you want a nice, heartwarming story in the frozen north.
See, you always talk about Sarah Morgan in these lists, and I always sit here and go, oh, I really should read more Sarah Morgan. I have read one.
Never.
Just one. And I've met Sarah Morgan, and
you went up on me. I've not met Sarah Morgan.
I had to go to New York to do it, but you know,
I would love to meet her. Really would.
Yeah. But yeah, I really should, because you always describe, and they always sound so like me. As always, as we are talking about our favorite books of Q4, whether you are watching this live or whether you're watching this after the fact, please let us know in comments anything you have enjoyed reading in the October to December 2021 period, whether they are 2021 releases or whether there's something that you've really enjoyed reading during Q4. We always like to hear what you are reading, because all book lovers need more book recommendations, don't they?
Oh, definitely.
Always.
Yes.
My next one is going to be very quick, and it will be no surprise to you either, because I always talk about this author here on this channel in just about every video I make. And this one is On a Night Like This by Lindsey Kelk. This one was a 4th of November release, was it, or was it the week after? Did we go to the signing on the 7th, or was it on
the 7th? Yes,
it was on the 7th. So this must be, we got the book early, so the 7th was Sunday, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. It must have been an 11th of November release. So On a Night Like This, and I will show you my signed copy in a moment because I do have it here as well. But I have a whole video talking about this one. This one is a I mean, it's what you expect from Lindsey Kelk. It was hilariously funny. It was a solid, heartfelt story, and just a great sort of bang for your buck read. You know, you get a little bit of everything from a Lindsey Kelk book, and it's a Cinderella retelling that is a ball. It's very glamorous, and to get to said ball, you have to go on a very glamorous yacht as well. And I mean, the tagline is anything can happen if you just take a chance. And I do have a full review of it on this channel, so it is already linked. Even if you're watching this live right now, it's already linked in the description box below. And if you are watching this after the fact, I will leave it linked up above as well. But I do have my signed beautiful copy. I will show you said signed page, and it's just a gorgeous book. And as well, talking about sort of festive reads, why can I never get this? It's so hard when it's all mirrored. It does have a little bit of Christmas in there, so if you are looking for a Christmassy read that's not too Christmassy, because there are camps of us that go, if it's got Christmas in the title, it has to be super Christmassy, and there are camps of us that are like, I've got enough Christmas in my life, I want something perhaps a little bit wintry to read. And so this one does have some Christmas in here. And the tagline on the back is "Get ready for a night like no other." And you know, when you're reading a Lindsey Kelk novel, you are ready for a night like no other. And that's just how it goes. But yes, for full details on why I love that book so much, you can watch my whole sit down review, which has a little bit of our signing that we went to as well. And yes, it really is. It's a very pretty book. I think there's something about that like deep navy color. It's almost like velvety, like deep blues and deep greens, those dual colors. Yeah, there's something slightly festive but very Cinderella coloring about it as well. I feel that some of it may have taken inspiration from, you know, just a touch of Disneyland.
Disney. Yeah.
Just a touch of Disneyland.
It's a very cleverly designed cover, I think.
It really is. It really is. The some of the international covers I've seen are a slightly lighter blue, and I think that that's an interesting choice, but I think it leans it more towards a summery book.
Yeah.
I mean, let me know if
that
you
sort of midnight blue on the top of the cover.
It's definitely wintry.
Yeah.
But yeah, the summery, the lighter blue, I just don't think has the same impact. It's definitely more Cinderella, but I don't think it has the same like festive.
Yeah.
Festive. And we have somebody else joining us as well.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. No surprise. Linda just talked about Sarah Morgan, and I just talked about Lindsey Kelk. So it's just a standard fabulous book fiend live show video, because those are the people that we talk about all the time.
Yes, indeed.
So would you like to share another book?
Yes, I would.
Excellent. Is it going to be another Christmassy book?
It is another Christmassy book. I think all but one of my books tonight is just Christmas. Sorry. But I think it's no surprise really at this time of year.
No.
Right, so this is One More Christmas at the Castle by Trisha Ashley. And this lovely lady always produces such a nice Christmas book. And it's one I always look out for as well as looking out for my Sarah Morgan. Trisha Ashley is always top of my list. And this particular book concerns a castle, or it was more like a big manor house, really, in the north of England. And it's owned by an elderly widow, Sabine. And at the beginning of the book, we find out that she's been given a terminal diagnosis and has not long to live. Now, this sounds a bit sad. Well, it is sad, obviously, but that doesn't overshadow the whole book because of the strength of character that Sabine has. She's one of these very feisty elderly ladies who's not going to let anything get her down. And she decides that what she wants to do is to have a Christmas like those that she remembers from days gone by. And she wants the whole castle to be done up and some marvelous meals to be produced, and the way things were done in her childhood and early adulthood, basically. And so she engages a company called Heavenly House Parties.
Ooh.
And I like the sound of these people. I want to
Okay.
have them. She engages them for the whole month of December.
Oh.
And they are two friends that run this, and they come in and they basically take over all of the work in the house, producing the meals, cleaning, washing, you name it, they do it. All the decorating, the Christmas trees, everything.
Do they have the cherry pickers to do the outdoor decorations?
I think they must do, because they do. Well, actually, I do remember one scene where she was actually, one of the ladies from the company was actually up a ladder at the top of a tree.
Maybe they've got shorter outdoor trees.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, they do all of this, but the main thing they do is they produce these marvelous meals.
Mhm.
And it's one of those books that you really shouldn't read when you're hungry, because you just want to go and make. Some of them are just really, comfort foods, your cottage pies and things like that, but not ordinary, obviously. So anyway, they're there for the month of December, and one of the people that runs the company, Dido, she keeps getting the feeling that she recognizes this castle, and also Sabine's grandson who turns up, and she definitely recognizes him because she met him when they were both teenagers and she had a massive crush on him. And so there's a bit of romance developing, as you might hope for. And there's also, as you also might hope for, a very nice little dog.
Of course. Of course. I was like, you talked about that whole Sarah Morgan book and didn't talk about a dog in there.
There was no dog.
Shocking.
They didn't take a dog to Lapland with them. Although the auntie in Lapland did have a dog.
Oh, did she have huskies?
She had huskies. Yeah, they went out on a sleigh ride with huskies. Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other book. But as the story goes on and December goes on, we learn more and more secrets coming out of the woodwork, as Sabine is, it turns out she's actually trying to decide who to leave the castle to, because she doesn't have any direct heirs. And so she has a bit of an ulterior motive in all of this, because over the actual Christmas weekend, she has a house party where she invites the various people who might be expecting to be left the castle. So, as I say, the secrets come out, the various people come along, and some are very disappointed and annoyed at the outcome of it all. And in the meantime, there's a little bit of romance going on in the background. And just, as I say, a sad sort of thought that Sabine's dying, but at the same time, she's going out with a bang and really enjoying herself and kind of enjoying making other people squirm as well. So
I've just realised I asked you the question about the cherry pickers, and I've just had a good look at the cover, and there is someone up a ladder decorating an outdoor Christmas tree. So
and they don't have a cherry picker.
They do not have a cherry picker, but they do have a ladder. So I apologise for asking a question that the answer to was on the cover. I apologise about that.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, was that everything?
That was everything. Yes. Yes.
Would you say that rather than watch, is it A Castle Christmas or Christmas at the Castle on Netflix, you should read One More Christmas at the Castle by Trisha Ashley?
Always. There's no problem there.
Yeah.
There's no competition.
Yeah. And if you did watch that one on Netflix and you were as disappointed as we were with it, I would say recommend One More Christmas at the Castle instead, to redeem the Christmassy castle-y theme. Yeah.
And if anyone wants to make a film, maybe they should have a look at that book instead.
Yeah, sounds a bit better. You could have someone up a ladder decorating an outdoor Christmas tree, or maybe you could pop cherry pickers in there instead.
Might be an idea.
Yeah. I am also going to talk about a festive book next, not because we're like, oh, we have to do all the festive books to begin with, but I will be coming on to talk about some non-fiction in a moment. It just so happens that I put the books in this order, and as you know, they're always in no particular order. And if you are just joining us, we want to hear what your favourite books that you've read in the last quarter of 2021 have been. They don't have to be 2021 releases, just anything that you've read and really loved in October, November, or December. Also doesn't have to be Christmassy, just to put that out there. I know we were talking about quite a few Christmassy things, just like Underneath the Christmas Tree by Heidi Swain. If you haven't seen my weekly vlog from last week, I went to a book event with Heidi Swain where she does talk a little bit about this book in the video. I took some footage at the book event, and this book is the second book that takes place in the seaside town of Windswept. If you are familiar with Heidi Swain books, she has a few little communities that she sets her novels in and around. And last summer we went to Windswept for the seaside. Is it the Secret Seaside Escape or just the Seaside Escape?
I think it's secret.
Okay, well, whether or not it's secret, we will fact check that in due time and let you know. But yes, the seaside town of Windswept, and we are back there for a Christmas novel, Underneath the Christmas Tree. I just love this cover. I love the fact that it's this candy pink cover. I know putting a sort of popular fiction, commercial women's fiction, rom-com book out there with a pink cover can often be very polarizing, but I think it's just a glorious, and you don't get a lot of Christmas books with pink covers. You get a lot of just general romance books with pink covers, but not Christmas books. And we go to Winter's Trees, where our lovely main character is going back sort of home to where she grew up. Her father started Winter's Trees, and it's now being run by his colleague, and she is a major shareholder and has to go back to basically do some admin. She's at a bit of a crossroads, and she's kind of like, right, I need to put a closure on this part of my life, but we're going to find out whether, you know, she does choose to do that or not. And the first thing that happens when she arrives back at her sort of family, I want to call it a ranch because in my head it kind of feels a bit like a ranch. The whole tree plot and house thing combined together. So I'm going to call it a ranch. When she arrives back there, she's greeted by a man in a towel who's out in the cold. And if that isn't kind of a hook for you to carry on turning the pages and find out what happens next, I don't know what is. But basically, yes, Winter's Christmas Tree Farm sells Christmas trees. They started off in particular with potted Christmas trees. And I think the idea is that people can kind of leave their trees there and then come back and get their tree the next year because it's a potted thing. But they've been trying to kind of expand the business and help, you know, do a little better in this economy. And so there's all sorts of other things that they've been trying. And so this one is full of festive fun. And it is also full of romance and full of kind of like things from the past that might haunt us that we need to confront, but you know, we'll do so in a meaningful way. But also there's quite a lot of comedy in this one as well. I did have some laughs with this one too, because there are some moments like the aforementioned man in a towel at the beginning. It was very interesting. But yeah, there's that, the thing with a Heidi Swain novel is always that sense of community, and particularly her Christmas novels, you've always got somebody who perhaps isn't feeling the Christmas spirit and really isn't into the idea of Christmas, and then they need something, someone and a community to come together and show them that Christmas spirit. That's the general thing that you expect with a Heidi Swain novel, and the thing that you get with a Heidi Swain Christmas novel. So yeah, if you are into books about community, then this is very much one for you. Heidi Swain's novels are always very character driven, but in the sense that we've got our main character and then our like other main supporting character is the community around them. Even if they start with zero community around them, that community builds, and that community kind of like lifts them and supports them, and that's what you get with a Heidi Swain novel. And it is a very Christmassy book, I will say. I mean, it's set on a Christmas tree farm. Like, what more what more do you look for in a Christmas novel?
True.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. You haven't read it yet, have you?
No, I haven't. No,
but you were at the book event.
I was,
and heard Heidi Swain talking about it. And it's always nice to return to a book that you've been to that setting before. I think it's always nice to go back to a setting. So there's 3 different Heidi Swain settings, and when I arrive at that setting, as soon as I've got to that first page in the book where the setting is mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, I know where I am. I know who lives in that house over there, and I know where we are with these characters. So
yeah, it's the same with her novels with Windbridge. And
yeah,
as soon as she mentions Windbridge, I'm like, oh yes, the marketplace and the
Cherry Tree Cafe.
yeah, etc.
Yeah. I do feel like, for me, Wimbridge is my favorite Christmas setting. But Weymouth makes for a very different Christmas setting, because obviously you've got the different sort of different community feel in a seaside town than you have in a market town.
I will look forward to reading that.
Yeah. Okay. Is the next book you're going to talk about a Christmas book?
It is actually not a Christmas book.
Wow, we've gone non-Christmas books now, so prepare yourselves for some non-Christmas book recommendations. Here we go.
Okay, so here we have My Best Friend's Wedding by Tilly Tennant. I say this is not a Christmas film, not a Christmas book, because I'm going to contradict myself now. It actually, a lot of the action in it takes place on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Okay.
But it's not really a Christmas book.
Okay.
Can you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It could equally have taken place on another day of the year, and perhaps with the same outcome, but it just happens to be Christmas Eve. So what we have here is Libby. She's the central character in this, and her best friend of the title is getting married, and she is the chief bridesmaid. And as chief bridesmaid, there's a lot of humour attached to the fact that she has to look after a little group of little girl bridesmaids who are always up to something, and she has to try and keep them clean and tidy for the duration until the actual wedding is taking place.
I have to just pause you 1 second. Hazel has said, like Die Hard. Is that in now, as someone who's not seen Die Hard, in Die Hard, is it about a chief bridesmaid who has to look after lots of little Christmas bridesmaids?
Maybe not, by the sound of it.
I don't know. It's tough work being a chief bridesmaid.
Obviously.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's not bad.
She has gone on to say it's not a Christmas film. It's just set at Christmas.
It's the same sort of thing, Hazel. Well done. Yes.
Or being a chief bridesmaid is like Die Hard.
It's not quite so violent, I think. You'll find it's not violent at all, actually.
I mean, I probably shouldn't be suggesting that, since I was a bridesmaid for Hazel.
Yes.
I just had to stop you there because I saw that come up. It's like, yeah.
I was just getting into my stride.
So sorry. You carry on. So it's like Die Hard. So chief bridesmaid has to look after all these little girl bridesmaids.
Indeed, yes. And also make sure that she does all the things that the bridesmaid should do to make sure that everything is good for her friend's wedding day. And the wedding takes place in a country hotel, which sounds really lovely. It has a spa and just, every comfort you can imagine, and a wonderful restaurant with wonderful food. And so they all troop off to the hotel, and the wedding duly takes place, and everybody sits and has their lovely meal, and there's dancing and music, and nobody at all realizes outside it is snowing and snowing and snowing to the point where nobody can leave. and nobody can come in. So all the evening guests can't come to the wedding.
no.
They can't get there. But all the people who are already there can't escape either. They can't go home. And just when it seems like, oh, well, at least, we've got all this nice surroundings and we can do this, that, and the next, off goes the electricity.
Oh.
That's it. So what we have then is Libby, chief bridesmaid, being a really good chief bridesmaid and using all of her organizational skills to sort everything out, make sure that people have places to sleep. Some of them just have to sleep on the floor in the lounge and make do, but she makes sure that the people who need beds, the elderly people, etc., all get rooms and are looked after. But at the wedding, there is Libby's ex, Rufus, who is determined that he's going to get her back. But also at the wedding is a friend of the groom, Noah. And Noah and Libby are beginning to get very friendly. But Rufus isn't liking this. So Rufus lets slip a secret that spoils everything for everybody. And that's all I can say, really, without giving out any spoilers.
It sounds so dramatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I don't think it would be a spoiler to reveal that the snow melted eventually.
No, I mean, we know what happens with snow.
Yeah.
It's, there's a we could have all watched The Snowman or read The Snowman. We know what happens at the end.
So, as I say, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, but then there's a bit of the story after Christmas Day, which stops it being entirely a Christmas film. I will call it a film. It's a book.
There we go.
Book.
Pitch this one.
I have to say.
Really like the sound of this one.
Oh, I'm glad, Hazel. I'm glad.
Well, I mean, now I feel like I want to watch Die Hard after you described it like that.
I don't know that there was any bridesmaids in Die Hard.
Well, apparently, don't recall any bridesmaids in it. There is a vest, though.
There is a vest?
Yeah. Bruce Willis wears a vest.
Oh, he wears a vest, yes. But
like a vest, like a...
Yeah. Like, yeah.
We've gone off on a tangent now.
I do apologise.
Shall I? It's because I've drunk more of my snowball than you have. That's clearly what it is. I've got the snowball cheeks now. Is that one? Did you do that one on audiobook?
No, I read that one.
Read that one because I was going to say I don't know if it's available on audiobook, but we shall find out. What was the other thing I was going to fact check? I've completely forgotten now.
I'm sorry. Oh, can't remember.
No, we can't remember. There was something else I was going to check. Yeah. I can't. Shall I talk about a non-fiction book?
Yeah, go on.
Shall I do that? Yes. So I listened to the audiobook of Taste by Stanley Tucci, which is read by Stanley Tucci. And if you are a fan of Stanley Tucci, you will enjoy having Stanley Tucci read you an audiobook as you're driving to and from work, because he's just got this very soothing voice. Mm-hmm. And then he starts talking about Italian food, and then you're like, okay, that is all I want to eat and cook now. Never mind the fact that I'm on the A1 and must stop and have pasta. Because this is a sort of memoir. I mean, it says my life through food, and so it is a Stanley Tucci memoir, but he sort of talks about each thing in terms of the food he was eating at the time. So the food he grew up on and the food he was cooking when he first moved out of home, when he first started acting, the food that he enjoyed in various relationships that he had. And I had no idea that he was married before his current marriage and that his wife unfortunately passed away. I had no idea that he had been through all of that, and he's been through some quite serious illness as well, which actually took away his taste. Which I just had no idea that he'd been through any of that. So it was quite revealing to me, as well as being entertaining and soothing. He is a funny guy, and just a warning out there, he doesn't hold back when it comes to his language. And so you're driving along and he's talking about people who cut up their spaghetti with a knife and fork and does not mince his words about how he feels about these grown adults that cut up their long pasta with a knife and fork. As you can imagine, he's not a fan of that. The only thing I will say about this book, I really, really enjoyed it. Like I say, I found it very revealing about his life, and the way he talks about food just made me want to go away and not necessarily cook, but eat Italian food. But I mean, you know, the idea of cooking some of the food sounded like it would be an easy time, the way he describes it. I will say, though, listening on audio, whilst you do get to hear Stanley Tucci talking about Stanley Tucci, he does also read the recipes from the book. So if you've got a physical copy of the book, you're going to have the recipes there to follow. But as you're driving up and down the A1 and he's saying, take, you know, a quarter cup of red wine and a stalk of celery and this, it's not the most helpful. And it's something that I think if I was listening as I was doing something that wasn't driving, I might sort of skip to the end of that chapter. But I'm really torn as to whether I prefer it as an audiobook, even though it's got the recipes, because he reads it himself, or if I think it would work better as a physical book. I think this one would be a really great one to give as a gift, because you're going to learn a lot about this person, but then you've also got recipes to take away from it, and the recipes that he's made and that means something to him as well. And a lot of them are quite simple recipes, but they sound like they would be quite impressive at the same time. And yeah, like I say, I learned an awful lot about him, and there was some things that I had no idea that he had been in, and I didn't know that he now resided almost entirely in the UK as well. Obviously, I knew that he now has a British wife, but I didn't know that they sort of had blended their family and based them here in the UK. So that was interesting. And so he does talk about lockdown and what, you know, lockdown was like for him last year, sort of as a working actor who mainly works in the US as well. So that was really quite interesting. But yeah, it was a surprise of a book. I put a hold on the audiobook, and when it came, I started listening straight away, and I was like, oh, didn't know that. And yeah, it was definitely entertaining. But if you are sort of in it for the recipes as much as you are the memoir, I would maybe recommend the physical book over the audiobook, just because you can't really sort of write down the recipes whilst you're listening and driving along at the same time. No, not if you want to be a safe driver. I'm sure there are people out there who might do that.
Oh, but no, I don't want to.
No, but we're not going to go down that route. But yeah, I really did enjoy it, and it's something different. Yeah, yes, definitely not a Christmas book.
No,
he does talk about Christmas, where sort of talking about different family Christmas traditions, and there was one that sounded like a lot of fun, but I couldn't imagine ever being in a room with that many people to actually make it work. Like, don't think that would ever happen, but yeah. Yeah. So should we circle back to some more Christmas fiction?
I think it's time we did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we have an author that I'm sure some of you who are listening in later than tonight will have read quite a lot of, which is Jenny Colgan. And this is The Christmas Bookshop. And I haven't read a Jenny Colgan for a little while, so I was pleased to see this and thought, oh yes, I must get this. And I really enjoyed this book. It was, as usual with Jenny Colgan, you've got your bits of drama, and you've got quite a lot of humour, and you've got really, really interesting characters who all have little interesting backstories going on. So I was looking forward to it, and I did very much enjoy it. The main character in this is Carmen, and Carmen is a young girl who's worked in a department store in her hometown for all of her working life, and she's a very, very good salesperson. But unfortunately, as happens such a lot nowadays, the department store closes down, and that area where she's living with her mum, there's really very little in the way of employment for her. And so her mother and her sister, between them, arrange for her to go to Edinburgh and stay with her sister who lives there and go to work in a bookshop. So Carmen turns up at the bookshop and really can't quite believe this place. Unbeknown to her, the bookshop is due to close down if it doesn't start to pick up business by Christmas. But she soon can see why that might be, because the man running the bookshop is quite a character, but doesn't really like... he hasn't moved into the 21st century, really. And he doesn't do things like website and online and cash machines. What do you call them? Contactless, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he doesn't...
I can think of a bookseller in Scotland like that.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And he also doesn't have much in the way of modern fiction. So you get this picture of this very dark and dusty shop, and this disheveled looking guy that's running it. And the customers who come in are quite strange as well. So Carmen decides that she's going to try and turn all this around, as you can imagine. So we're in Edinburgh in the run up to Christmas, and it's quite an exciting place to be in the run up to Christmas, isn't it? As it gets itself all dressed up. It has a Christmas market and a Christmas fair always going on, the big wheel going round. Normally, yes. Unfortunately, as we know, that's not going to be happening this year, but hopefully it will come again. Yes, we've got everybody getting all excited for Christmas. Carmen dragging this poor guy's shop into modern day life, and the people who come into the shop, and the more and more people come into the shop, but they include a foreign PhD student who takes a fancy to Carmen, but also an author comes from America to do a tour to promote his book. And Carmen manages to arrange for him to come in and do a book signing in the bookshop. And then this author takes a fancy to Carmen as well. So we have two men very interested in her.
Oh, love triangle.
Love triangle, yes. And wondering which one, if either, Carmen's actually going to end up with. But from my point of view, one of the interesting things was that amongst the people coming into the shop was a family who I've met before in one of her books.
Oh, and I love that.
I do love that kind of thing, because I wanted to say, oh, hi, how are you? And find out what they've been doing.
Yeah.
And find that they didn't seem to have changed. And that was great, because they were really interesting people. So all in all, I just loved this book. It's Christmassy, it's funny. Will she manage to save the shop? Will she go off with one of these men? There's a lot going on there. So one I would recommend.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm also interested because if it's a US author doing a book tour, the fact that he could stick around in Edinburgh long enough to form any connection with her, that's how we can tell it's fiction, because US book tours are always so like, we're going to this city, then we're going to this city, we'll be in Florida one day, and then we'll be in Washington State the next day. It's like, yeah.
He did keep in touch as he moved around, even as he went back to America.
Oh.
So, yes.
And did you do that one on audio?
I did actually do that one on audio.
How was the narration?
It was very good, because Jenny Colgan has a lady who does her narration, and I just love her. She's so good. Yeah. Always.
That's good. Always very important to have a good narrator.
Oh, definitely. Yes, it can totally spoil it if it's wrong.
Absolutely.
Somebody who's just not right for that story and can't do accents and the like.
Absolutely. Well, we're sticking with Scotland next. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We've got another non-fiction. we have Billy Connolly's memoir, Windswept and Interesting. Well, it says my autobiography on here. I do have a physical edition here to show you if you haven't seen me show this off already on my channel, because it is very, very beautiful. And I have shown it off quite a bit on the channel because it's so lovely. It was one of those that was just sitting on the table there at Waterstones. And even though I knew I had an audiobook copy of this one, I had to have this exclusive edition because it's very pretty. But this is just exactly what it says on the tin, Billy Connolly's autobiography. And he talks right back to his childhood, being born in a tenement flat in Glasgow, literally born on the kitchen floor. Talks about his upbringing in Glasgow. And the wonderful thing about whenever he talks about Glasgow is he talks about specific places. And there's specific places I can picture and specific places that I've been to. And it's just the way he will always give things their proper name, and will always give people their full names as well. Every person he talks about gets a first name and a second name. And I just love that. He never ever goes, oh, my friend John. It's always like my friend, John Mackay, or, my friend, full name always. And it's sort of similar to when he's talking about his time in Glasgow, because obviously he talks about growing up in Glasgow, and then he talks about working in the shipyards, and he talks about sort of breaking into the comedy circuit, the performing circuit, which he kind of did through music initially, rather than actually we sort of know him as a comedian and an actor. And it's interesting the way he talks about going in through playing the banjo. And whilst I know that he does that, I didn't come to him from that. And so that was interesting for me. But again, he's sort of somebody that, a lot of his backstory I didn't know about already. And even some of the stuff, his more sort of up-to-date stuff I didn't know about. I think because he's not massive in America, and so the past 5 years I haven't heard an awful lot about him, and so it was interesting to sort of catch up with that, even though he is a resident of the Florida Keys, which I thought was interesting too. He talks about the fact that he sat out on his decking watching the manatees swim by, and how he'd love to just be a manatee, just like floating around, chewing on some lettuce and just being generally happy. And I'm like, I like the fact that we have the manatees in there as well. And yes, he did start out as a folk singer in a group. You are absolutely right. And he talks fully about that, and about the transition from one group to another, and then sort of doing stuff solo as well. And again, a bit like the Stanley Tucci novel, he does not hold back, as we know of Billy Connolly. He does not hold back when it comes to the language that he uses. And he even addresses that in the book. He talks about the fact that he doesn't mind what he's saying, even though he's very popular and very up in the public eye. He doesn't really hold back when it comes to what he says, and doesn't really hold back when it comes to his opinions either. And I think that's why he has become as popular as he has, because we like people that don't hold back. We like people that we know are being open and honest with us. So yes, this is the beautiful sprayed edges exclusive Waterstones edition of Windswept and Interesting. But the thing that really sold it for me was the fact that it is signed on the third edges. So rather than being sprayed, how can I not even hold it straight? It's not that mirrored. It got black sprayed edges on the top and the bottom, and then it is signed on the spine. And then the actual naked book itself has awesome end pages, and it's just a stunning naked book as well, and really sort of joins in with the fact that he is windswept and interesting. So here's the naked cover. We've got that pink foil on there. He's wearing his famous sort of tights and tunic combo, and then we've got the pink foil on the spine as well. And then are you ready for the end pages? You can see why I had to have a copy of this book. So there he is on the end pages too. How glorious is that? It is just a stunning, stunning book. I'm not sure if there are pictures in this one. Oh, yeah, there we go. There are pictures. My picture pages haven't been fully sliced. Look, they're stuck together. Oh, how funny. But yes. So I shall have to, now having listened to the audiobook, I shall have to have a flick through and look at the picture pages as well. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And him being quite a fast talker, if you've been watching the channel for a while, I do normally listen to my audiobooks on double speed. I think I listened to this one on 1.4. So I got a good value for money out of this one. And he does talk about where he is now with his Parkinson's and stuff like that. And he does also, like Stanley Tucci, mention what it was like being locked down. I think, as you can imagine, for Billy Conley, he was just fine with it.
Yeah. Just watch the manatees.
Just chill out and watch the manatees and just be fine with it. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, highly recommend that one. And again, it would make a great gift, and that edition is really, really great. But I would never have not done this one on audio. I was always going to listen to this one because, again, Billy Connolly telling you anecdotes on your drive to work, that makes for a much brighter morning. Definitely. So shall we switch back to fiction briefly for your final book? Is it going to be a festive book? Ooh, that's the question. Let's see. Hey,
it looks a little festive to me.
A little bit. It's got the word Christmas in it.
Yes, this is a 12 Days of Christmas by Poppy Alexander. Now, I have not read this author before, and I have to thank somebody on Twitter that put a comment about it on Twitter, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting to me, and I went and sought it out, and I listened to the audiobook.
There we go. Twitter can be a nice place sometimes.
It can be. It can be. I thoroughly enjoyed this as well, which is why I'm talking about it here, I suppose. So the main character in this story is a lady called Freya. And Freya has been working in Paris under a Michelin-starred chef for about 10 years. And he's one of those chefs who is really difficult to work for, but he's brilliant at the same time. And nobody gets any time off at Christmas because it's their busiest time, really. And so she's not been home for Christmas in all that time. And this year, she has to come home for the most tragic of reasons. And again, I'm sorry about this, but another death.
Yeah.
She's found out that her mum is dying, and she dashes home just in time to see her for one last time. And she's obviously completely killed by this. I don't mean killed. She's just
floored.
She's floored by this. I'm sorry. And she's wandering around, and this is the town where she actually grew up. And she's wandering around, and somebody suddenly is there saying, Freya, is that you? And this is Finn, who she went to school with.
Oh.
And she had a bit of a crush on him at school, obviously. And he's like, well, let me, take you home. And when they get to the house, it's all shut up because mum's been in a hospice for a while. And there's no electricity, there's no water, there's nothing. So Finn takes Freya home with him and gives her a room in his house. And he decides that in order to cheer her up a bit and give her something to take her mind off everything, he thinks up a project for her. And her project is to turn her cooking skills to making dishes that are matching up to the gifts in the 12 Days of Christmas song. And we therefore have 12 days of wonderful dishes that she thinks up. Fortunately, Finn owns a delicatessen shop and he lives above it. So
delicatessen.
Yes. All she has to do is go downstairs and raid the shop for all the ideas that she comes up with to match these things in the 12 Days of Christmas.
Very fancy.
Yes. So it's another of those books that really you don't want to read if you're hungry, because it'll make you hungrier still. Some of them are really, really very posh, and maybe things that we wouldn't normally be seeking out, like partridge breasts.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like
I said, would the 5 gold rings just be 5 onion rings?
not quite. No.
No. I mean, that sounds good to me.
There was squid involved in that.
Nice.
So yes. So that really does the trick of taking her mind off the things that have gone on and arranging the funeral and etc., closing up the house, everything. And as the 12 days go on, she gets closer and closer to Finn, and she makes she sort of mends her relationships with other people in the town who she's allowed them to sort of float out of her life while she was in Paris. And she has to decide, is she going back to Paris, or is she going to stay in the town where she is and maybe turn her hand to cooking there? And I'm not going to tell you the answer to that, obviously, another spoiler. But I will say that I had the same problem as Katrina had with the recipes, because the author has very helpfully put all the recipes for all these wonderful dishes at the end of the book. But when you're listening to the audiobook and really somebody reading out a recipe is really quite boring.
Yeah.
And also you've not really got the chance to write everything down. And so I would definitely get a physical copy of this book, because
I mean, any book would also work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But some of the recipes in there I might like to have a go at.
Yeah.
Not the squid, but
no
other things.
No.
I might like to have a go at those. So really, I thought this was an interesting concept, just a bit different. Again, it could have been really quite gloomy with starting off with the death of mother.
Mm-hmm.
But the author managed to turn that around. It's obviously the subject is still there.
Yeah.
She's not sort of just saying, oh, let's just have a good time because, let's take our mind off this and have a wonderful time. It's nothing like that. It's still going on in the background, but it's just taking her mind off it from time to time, making these marvelous dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I am finishing off with part 4 in the Little Shop of Hidden Treasures series, which is called Christmas Wishes, because I was like, oh, maybe I should include something festive, but then I decided to include my Heidi Swain as well. This one is by Holly Hepburn, and Holly Hepburn was also at that book event that I included vlog footage of in my first vlog. Was it first Vlogmas video? No, it would be second Vlogmas video, because it was the 13th that we went to that. So Vlogmas week 2. So you can see Holly talking about that one there. And I also did a vlog for part 3 of this series, because this series takes place in York. And so I vlogged part 3. I took you in and around York to some of the locations featured in this series. And I also told you about my thoughts. This one features Hope, who has to go back to York and sort of start over again for various reasons. And she finds herself up at the Ever After Emporium, where she gets a job. And this is a shop that she's always sort of watched from afar growing up in and around York. And so working there is quite something for her. And all through this series, we've had sort of the ups and downs of Hope. There are also 2 men in Hope's life, a bit like a book that you just talked about. And so we sort of don't know until the very last minute if either of these men is going to win her heart. It's looking like, Hope could be just doing it for herself at the end there. We'll have to wait and see. And so I was excited for part 4, and the fact that it's a little bit festive, and we have some romantic ice skating scenes and some sort of like Christmas recital type of events, as well as it being busy in the shop and busy in her friend's florist shop and busy in Will's jewelry making shop. All of this kind of like adds to the climax of this series. And so the other reason I really wanted to include this book is because I know that at this time of year we are all very busy and finding time for reading can be difficult. And each of these sections of book, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, take about an hour and a half to read. And so if you can find an hour and a half reading time, you can start something and finish something. So now is a nice time to be reading series type of things like this. And so it was nice to be able to, I ended up reading most of these Holly Hepburn installment type books I read in one sitting, but this Christmas one I ended up reading it in 2 sittings because I had less time. Because it came out at the end of November kind of time, and so everything was ramping up, and so yeah, the series itself is great. It's the fact that it's set in York makes it even better, and I like the fact that we've got a little bit of kind of archaeological influence on there with the antiques. We've got some belly dancing in there, and we've got some kind of different effects of trauma that can sort of affect people in different ways as well. I feel like Holly Hepburn's really thought outside the box on this one. I mean, it's definitely an interesting series. And another reason for mentioning this one in this video is that the bind up of all 4 parts, if you don't like reading books in serial like this or waiting for the next part to be released, even though all 4 are now released, but the bind up of all 4 parts comes out on the 6th of January. So if you're getting like book tokens and things like that for Christmas or Amazon vouchers, you could order the big bind up of the book with those, if you like the sound of this series. But I thought I'll pop this one on there because I really enjoyed reading it, and it was just, for me, it was just the ideal ending to the series. Again, no spoilers, but for me, who's read the series and been through the various parts of the series, it was the ideal ending, and so it was a highlight of Q4 for me.
Good.
Yeah. And something a little bit festive but a little bit different as well. Yeah. So nice. I like the fact that we've always got quite a lot of different books in our roundups of the different quarters. And the fact that I've got 2 non-fiction in here, as well as 2 full-length fiction and 1 shorter fiction, as well as one of my fictions being super Christmassy and 1 being just a little bit Christmassy. I think it's a good balance. But then if you're looking for something extra Christmassy, any of Linda's suggestions would seem to work. Yeah, so as I said at the beginning, do let us know if you have made it this far, what one of your highlights of Q4 has been, or indeed if there's anything that you are especially looking forward to in 2022 Q1. There are some books that I'm getting excited about. One in particular I'm excited about is the Marion Keyes follow-up to Rachel's Holiday. I'm very excited about that one. I've seen people start to get proof copies of it. You know, authors start to get their author copies for comments and things like, oh, really looking forward to that one. And Miranda Dickinson has a new novel out in February as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. Already thinking about 2022 reading plans. Well, I haven't quite finished my December TBR yet. Spoiler alert there. Haven't quite finished that one. But I've had some decent non-fiction on there as well. So that's nice. That's been a carryover from non-fiction November.
Well, I'm just finishing off my last Christmas book.
Nice.
Of the year, I think.
Yeah. So keep an eye out on the blog for a review of that coming very soon.
Yes.
And then, of course, we are halfway through. I think we're almost exactly halfway through the new Lucy Diamond.
Yes.
So that's quite exciting. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add to this top 10 favourite books of 2021 Q4. Is there anything else that you need to add?
Not really.
No, just thank you all so much for watching, as always, whether you have joined us live or whether you are watching in the future. Thank you for all your comments again, whether you joined us live or afterwards. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed so that you don't miss out on next week's weekly vlog, which should be coming your way on Thursday if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this afterwards, it'll probably be linked in the end screen. And yeah, us talking about our top 10 books of 2021 Q1, because you know that will be coming your way very soon. So thank you again for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And thank you all for watching. And I will see you with my next video. So I will say goodbye.
Bye.